This series of videos will help individuals and organizations develop or enhance their active offer of services in French. The following video is primarily addressed to staff who may serve French-speaking individuals seeking assistance while working in various courts of justice, in police services, and in other related services. Thank you for watching.
André, what is an active offer of French language services?
An active offer of French language services is when the French language services are publicized, are made known to the potential users of those services, and also where the general public is made aware and is encouraged to use those services and to use them in such a way that they will feel at ease in using the services. Also, the active offer of French language services requires that the quality of those services be comparable to the quality of the services that are offered to the general population.
And how does an active offer manifest itself to the general public?
There's many ways where these services can be publicized, can be manifested to the general public. For example, signage, outside signage and interior signage, where both official languages, French and English, are prominent, so that when you approach the provider, it's quite clear that you are encouraged to use French or English. Also, the greeting, particularly the initial greeting, when you come face to face with a service provider, if you are welcomed by hello, bonjour, for example, where the signal, the indication is you are welcome here to use the language, the official language of your choice. Many people visit websites before visiting a provider, and when the websites encourage you to use both languages, that's also very effective. Having at the service points bilingual staff who can express themselves in both languages and who communicate in both languages and can provide documents in both official languages. Those are all ways to provide publicity, to send the message that French language services are actively provided here.
And how can the general public be encouraged to ask for French language services?
Obviously, we need to have some important awareness campaigns so that people who are potential users, the francophones, francophiles, have the sense that someone is working on the active offer of French language services, and that they care about people knowing about it, but also about the quality of the services that they will be offering. Presentations can also be made to community groups, to communities, to local communities, to make them aware of what is available, and also of the efforts that are being made to increase and enhance those services.
And how can we ensure that French language services are of comparable quality to those services offered in English?
There are essential ingredients, it seems to me. You need to have bilingual staff. If there is no one on staff who can speak French, then offering the French language services will be a lot more difficult. You need quality French language documentation. It's not enough to have a document that was quickly translated in French. Someone who has to verify the quality of those translations, the quality of the documentation that is being distributed. In some cases, you would need easy access to interpretation services. Also, you need to make sure that there are no undue delays or additional costs to those services. Otherwise, you are falling into passive offer. It's probably essential also for service providers of French language services to verify the degree of satisfaction of the clients, of those who use the services. That's one way of being alerted right away if there is a problem and if a correction needs to be made. Also, in a general sense, the leaders need to have a look at other ways of providing services in French because of the smaller number of people in the population. Sometimes what is being used for the general population is not appropriate and should be modified.
And how would you describe how the services are currently offered to Francophone communities in Saskatchewan?
I think most people would agree that today in Saskatchewan, in the court services, in justice in general, there is a passive offer of French language services. That is that service providers will wait for French language users to request the service and not always, and they will not always do the proactive actions that need to be done. Also, we know that in some cases, requesting French language services brings about delays, additional costs, and even some discrimination and some intimidation in certain cases.
So the idea, André, is to move from a passive offer to an active offer of French language services?
That's right, and it's not a simple or an easy move. It requires really a very inspiring and a very collaborative leadership at all levels for this to happen. Many people need to work together to provide the services and to provide the conditions where those services can be provided to users in a very effective way. There needs to be changes in the providers' attitudes, behaviors, knowledge, and also in the users' knowledge, attitudes, and behaviors. And it's in this collaboration that the real standard for French language services will be active offer.
What are you basing yourself on to say that French language services are a standard here in Saskatchewan?
No, you see, I'm not inventing it. Neither are French language groups inventing this. The standard is spelled out in Saskatchewan's French language court services policy. And it says that it is important that all those involved in the court process understand their obligations with regard to offering French language court services, and that all citizens be informed that legal services are offered in both official languages. Also, Saskatchewan's French language policy gives the definition of active offer. So those are two very important issues that are already being dealt with.
Is there also a legal or judicial basis for active offer in the field of justice?
There's not necessarily a specific law or policy or law anyways for active offer, but the laws such as the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms, the Official Languages Act, Saskatchewan's own Language Act, Sections 530 and 530.1 of the Criminal Code, Saskatchewan's French Language Services Policy, Saskatchewan's French Language Court Services Policy. These are all foundations upon which active offer not only can but should be based. Essentially, these laws underline the fact that there are two official languages. There's not a first language and a second language. There are two official languages, and those two official languages are equal. And if they are equal, then the French language, the communities that use those languages, those official languages, are official language communities, and they are, in a sense, equal also. Therefore, that's a very good foundation for active offer of French language services.
So active offer of French language services is a matter of rights and it's a matter of responsibilities.
That's right. And it's also a matter of ethics. Ethics, and we can look at ethics in four different perspectives. There needs to be a compassion for the person who is French-speaking and requires services in the French language. Providers need to be able to put themselves in that person's shoes. If the service is not provided in French, then it is not the quality service that should be offered. Also, it's a question of equity, of equality, of respect for the rights of French-speaking citizens under the Official Languages Act and under the Charter. Also, there needs to be a preoccupation by the service providers with the systemic barriers that sometimes exist within a system where no one is intentionally denying a service, but because of certain regulations, because of budgets, the barriers do exist and they prevent the providers from providing the services that they should be providing. Also, on a professional level, the code of ethics of most professionals will require them to focus on the client's needs and the client's rights. There's an interesting saying from a lawyer who says that we say that a member of the Francophone minority has a choice between being served in English today or in French tomorrow. In other words, French is available, but you'll just have to wait longer, or you'll have to pay more, or you'll have and active offer reverses that situation.
So if I understand this correctly, André, active offer of French language services is not only a matter of rights and responsibilities, but also a matter of quality of services and ethics.
And we could add a question of leadership. To provide an active offer of French language services in the justice system in Saskatchewan will require active, inspiring, collaborative leadership at all levels, whether it's for the whole system, for the organizations that provide the service, for the professionals who are on the front line, and even for the French language community. They will need to exercise their leadership so that the demand is there for the services. And that when the services are provided, Francophone citizens will use them.
André, is this a good time to implement an active offer of French language services here in Saskatchewan?
It seems that it's an excellent time to provide French language services. in the justice system. When you look at all of the existing laws and policies that encourage the active offer of French language services, and also all of the laws that have been translated that now exist in French and that are official here in Saskatchewan. There's really an important resource and important steps have been taken in the last 20 or 30 years anyways to bring about change. We know that there are bilingual judges. We know that there are French-speaking legal professionals. We know that documentation in French exists, and that English documentation is very often translated in French. There's a growing Francophone population in Saskatchewan. There's public support for bilingualism. Also, the government of Saskatchewan has a department that is Francophone Affairs branch that can influence the government, that can provide assistance and advice to the government. And also there are many agreements between the Government of Canada and the Government of Saskatchewan regarding French language rights in education, in health, in immigration, and in French language services. One of the interesting resources that is now on the scene that can really be of tremendous help to both the system and the community is the Centre Info Justice, which has been put in place by the French language jurists in this province.
André, what are the factors that influence demand for French language services?
Demand for French language services is not always as high as it should be because people fear delays, additional costs. Sometimes they fear also that there might be prejudice in their regard because they want to use French language services. Sometimes they're just timid about rocking the boat, not knowing what the reaction will be when one insists on receiving services in French. What comes to mind here is that the offer of French language services must come first. It must precede demand. And the reason for that is that Francophones, and you can hardly blame them, why would they ask for services that do not exist? Why would they ask for services if their services are of lower quality? So it's quite clear that the offer must precede the demand, and as of this moment, there are many people who are looking at this and who are trying to see how that can be accomplished.
The Centre Info Justice can help you by providing information, resources, and facilitation services throughout the implementation process. Make sure to view these other videos in our series. If you have any questions, comments, or suggestions, please contact the AJEFS Centre Info Justice. Thanks again for watching.